Welcome to episode 1 of Video Game Memories. And this is a new series I'm going to be trying out. And what I'm going to be doing is going through every single video game memory that I can think of for as many games as I can think of. No matter how small or big that memory is, I think it has historical value. And there are people who are just so into retro gaming like myself that we want to hear other stories of other people. How did you find your first console, or how did you find that first game? What were your thoughts? Where were you? What friends did you play with? How did you play it? There's just so many questions. And I got this idea. I saw a guy on YouTube here, and I watched about a 30 or 40 minute video. And he was just going through a bunch of his memories of the N64. And he told me, or in the video, he told the viewer that he tried to write as many of them down on paper as he could. And he decided to share them. So the first game I wanted to discuss, I decided to go with a very simple game that I did have fond memories of. And the game is Yoshi for the NES. I have one that is in very good condition, and this is the original Yoshi that I had as a kid. I actually got this as a teenager, and this was before the days of the internet. And if the internet existed back then, I didn't have it. That was a luxury item that rich people had, in my opinion, back then. Back then, I had Nintendo Power, and that was the only way I discovered these games. So I would have got this game when I was in probably grade 7. So I was probably 13 years old at the time. And how I got it, a friend of mine was actually selling his NES. He lived in the same complex as me. His name was Amar. Amar, if you're watching this, I do have your Yoshi game. And he was selling it, and it came with a bunch of games. Okay, and this was the, back then, there was no such thing as retro gaming. So if you had an old console, it was worthless. And he had a lot of games, though, and he even had the original box for the NES system. He was selling the system with might have been 3+ controllers. He even had the NES satellite 4-player adapter, wireless 4-player adapter. He had a ton of games, and I believe the price he wanted was $80 Canadian. Now, I fought hard for the price negotiation. I remember that both me and my friend Ryan had gone over to look at it. Ryan had expressed interest in it, and I actually talked him out of it because I wanted it. It was a dick move, but I got the system. I was more of a retro game guy than he was, and I was more of a gamer than he was. So I paid him the $80, and me and my friend Ryan, at the time, you'll hear a lot about him. He's in a lot of my game memories. We went to play the system. We played the system over the next several months, and we were just trying out his games and joking how bad some of them were, and still playing them just for jokes. We were really playing the games for jokes to begin with, because I believe the N64 was out at this time. PlayStation 1 was out around this time. Like, the NES was really garbage. Like, Super Nintendo was, starting to dwindle in popularity. The N60, this was the days of the PS1 and the N64. So when we first played this, we didn't know it was a puzzle game. We didn't know what to expect, and immediately it became a favorite that we would always go to. So as a single player game, Yoshi sucks. This puzzle game sucks. It's very repetitive. But as a 2-player game, it's one of the best. It's one of the best because it's very competitive. Very, very, very competitive. And there is an element of luck. So some people don't like that. A lot of the puzzle nerds, the puzzle genre nerds, will say, well, I don't like that. I'm looking for skill only. Well, guess what? The problem with skill-based games is that they're not newbie friendly. So if I bring over a new friend today, Joe Smith wants to come over. Okay, Joe Smith, let's play a nice simple game that even Joe Smith, who can barely hold a controller, can play. Well, he can pick up Yoshi, and not only can he pick up and play it because it's a simple puzzle game, but he can also beat me. He has a good chance to actually win once he gets the concept. So that became, me and Ryan in particular were very competitive over playing Yoshi. It was some serious business. So I guess before I fast forward to the future, it's important to note that the way the puzzle game works, I should have mentioned this earlier, is all these pieces are falling. So you got your ghost, your flower, your Koopa Troopas and Goombas and all that stuff. They're falling down like Tetris pieces in a solid row. And you're just trying to line up 3 in a row to make them disappear. Okay? And you're trying to collect as much points as possible and clear your board. But what makes it unique is that you can also get these little eggs. This here, top corner here that I'm pointing, that's a bottom shell egg. So when you lay that, you can lay all the other pieces around it on top of it. So you can stack up as many as you want, and then when you get a top half of that egg shell, it goes on top. They all merge down, fall into the egg, and disappear. And that's also how you rack up the most points. But I didn't know that for the first several years that I played it. So eventually I stopped playing it. My NES went up into storage. I later brought the NES out and I started collecting again, just dabbling back in 2009. 2010 I started really getting into it, and I kind of trickled from there and just got consecutively, I was collecting more and more and more over the years until fast forward to today, I'm still collecting. So I brought it out again to fight my friend Brian Putman. We were always looking for 2-player co-op games that we could be very competitive playing, and this one did come up a few times, but it wasn't a favorite. It was just a couple of times, and that would have been it. But then, fast forward to 2000, I'm not sure what year, okay, but I was 28 years old, let's say. That's when I discovered that this game is great for new players, but not just any new players, it's great for girls. If you're trying to introduce your girlfriend to Nintendo or video gaming in general, and they're resistant to gaming, they don't like gaming, this is a great starter game. In fact, I think this is the game that I started with when I was dating this girl called Sky Nelson. Didn't last very long, but I was trying to, seal the deal. And yeah, she, once I introduced her slowly to the various Nintendo games, and she quickly grasped that this is fun, and she had a great time. We did play some other games. I introduced her to some other newbie-friendly games. In particular, side note, be in an upcoming video, track and field for the NES with the power pad, running pad. You can do 2-player races. That would be a great game to play on a date, because I actually did do that. We played several NES games, and the key is when you're on a date with a girl who doesn't typically game or had negative views on gaming, the key is to always switch the game. You're not playing Yoshi for an hour. You're playing this for 10 minutes tops, and you switch up. Every 5 to 10 minutes, you're switching the game until you find one that you can play longer and that she's having a good time, like track and field. We ended up playing that one for maybe an hour until I couldn't run anymore because I was too tired. So that's that's my memory of Yoshi from beginning to end. I didn't have it as a kid. I probably had seen it, and I'd probably seen it at the rental store, Jumbo Video, Rogers Video, Blockbuster Video. But I'd never rented it because it's not my cup of tea. Looking at the cover, looking at the back, it's a puzzle game. So it wasn't until my older, early teens that I discovered this game, and it's one of the all-time greats. Okay, it did get bad reviews on Wikipedia. Let me read some of the reviews. So it says, Yoshi received a mixed reception with common criticism directed towards its perceived repetitive gameplay and dependence on luck, which I touched on. I liked it. That's brackets, my quote. Then it carries on to say, which led to short replay value. Brett Allen Weiss of All Game called Yoshi a surprisingly dull game, noting that while the game's controls are unique, the novelty wears off after a while. He is correct on the unique controls. It is a unique game. Then it goes on to say, both Frank Provo of GameStock and Lucas M. Thompson of IGN rated Yoshi 5 out of 10. Thomas regarded the gameplay as slow and the controls cumbersome and concluded that the game is a beginner's puzzle. He is correct, and that's why it's so good. Holding little appeal to experienced players. That's true. That is true. While Provo complimented both the game's graphics and music, he stated that the gameplay did not involve much strategy, inciting little reasons to play more than a few minutes. Okay. Yeah, he's arguably right. Then he went on, Nintendo Life later on rated it a 4 out of 10, called it uninspired. So that being said, on a more positive review, the Europress gaming magazine N-Force stated in a preview for the game in 1992 that basically the game is great. The fun of Tetris, but with color and sound effects, just as hard, maybe harder, definitely just as addictive. It later rated the game 4 out of 5. Now that's a proper review, guys. Then it goes on to say a 1993 issue summarizing that Yoshi is great fun. Gameplay is nothing new, Tetris all over again, graphics are great, lots of fun, and the music is good too, that's my quote. Does go on to say Yoshi sold 500,000 copies in its first day on sale. And that was probably back in 1991, 92 maybe. I don't know, actually, let's see the release date. 1991, December 1991. It was a Christmas, out just in time for Christmas. So that's the video, guys. Let me know if you want to see more of these videos. If you do want to see more, leave a comment, because otherwise I'm not going to know if these have any value. In my mind, they do have historical value, and I do think that there are some people who would be interested. But let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll do more. Maybe we'll do 100. If you want me to make 100 of them, let me know. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Oh yeah, and don't forget to check out our sponsor. I got a cream for your balls. It's normally have it on me, but it'll cure your jock itch. I'm not a doctor, so you didn't hear from me, and what I just said is not medical advice. I'm not actually claiming it will cure your jock itch, but between you and me, it just might cure your jock itch. Link in bio.